Hello and welcome to the show in 2026. That's what it will be by the time you actually watch this or listen, if you're listening. Now, I hope for one, you've had a wonderful end to 2025, Christmas, New Year's, and that you're off to a blinder in the new year. I've always wanted to do a yearly wrapped type video, and this is my first opportunity to do it. And I put so much time, effort, and thought into, probably too much, if I'm quite frank, into curating exactly my recommendations, my top, etc. But what you're going to see now, I'm going to go through a just a smattering or a selection of my favorite moments from the episodes that were in 2025, just a little bit from each, and then we're going to go into some quotes or three quotes that were my favorite or stand out from the year, my three favorite books of the year, three business lessons, three personal lessons, five favorite podcast episodes, which is going to be really, really exciting because as you can imagine, I'm a serial podcast listener, and it was really, really, really hard to nail it down. I nailed it down to five and some honourable mentions. And then finally, three YouTube videos, which I think are going to be incredibly beneficial for anyone who wants to go back and watch them. I've really curated this to make sure it just drips with value, a little bit of my personal preference and personality, but I really, really hope you enjoy it. So have a look at these snippets. And also you might have noticed if you're watching, my background is slightly different. It's because I'm currently in a family member's dressing room. So that's why it's pink. There's pink things everywhere. But yes, without further ado, here are the best bits from the podcast in 2025. And then we'll pick back up and I'll go through my recommendations, my best picks from last year as well.
Well, I think that maybe we should start at birth for this because this is quite relevant. So I knew this before having a baby, but I'm pretty sure all of us do. But this is something that I thought about a lot before having a baby. And that is that children like routine. Children really like a similar bedtime. They like to have a very predictable and safe routine. And if you take them out of their routine, they miss a nap or they don't get their normal bedtime routine, they'll kick up a fuss and they'll be really upset because they don't feel safe and secure. If they don't have that lovely relaxing bath time, into a story before bed, into a lovely bottle, and then, oh, it's so nice. We know this to be true. Like since from when you were a child, it was part of your kind of play, and it's what you kind of spoke about as a kid in school and stuff. Like if you were pretending to be mum and dad and whatnot, you'd give the baby their routine when you were playing. And children, toddlers, which exciting for, sorry to just go on on a total tangent, but it makes a lot of sense. But toddlers, absolutely crazy, excited to go through that, but know that routine and consistency and safety is very important to them. And the reason that I say this is because it's the exact same for us as adults. So we find it really hard to build new habits, build new routines, do new things because the brain deems it unsafe. It's not new. It's new, so it's not comforting, and we don't understand it, and it actually sends out a little bit of an alarm to us. We fear it. We kind of want to step back from it. We want to step away from it when we try something new in our routine. And if you are going in with a crazy calorie goal, with a crazy energy expenditure goal, with some crazy kind of approach, imagine doing that to a baby. Like imagine just saying, instead of your lovely bath and your book and your bottle, we're gonna go and, like, I don't know, climb a mountain before you go to bed, and then like, oh, by the way, let's do your maths homework before bed. You best believe that they're going to have a terrible sleep. They're going to hate you. They're going to not, like, because it's not safe. It's not calm. It doesn't make them feel protected or secure. It makes them feel actually quite on edge and worried and afraid. So when you dive into a horrible routine, you are turning off the logical part of your brain, which does the plans, 10,000 steps, 1,700 calories, whatever it might be. And the amygdala lights up and it's like, predator, danger, let's lock down and go in to get some quick senses of dopamine. Let's go and either freeze, fight or flight. So that was a long-winded way of saying that if you don't ease yourself into it and if you don't gently make it enjoyable and pleasant and like a lovely, peaceful bedtime routine, then your brain, your psychology, your humanity is going to fight against it.
Who are some people that you look up to? Because I'm curious.
Yeah, I love this question because I have a really, really sort of powerful story that I've never forgotten in terms of, and it sums everything up so nicely in that we had quite a junior soldier leave our squadron when I was at 216, and he gave a really good leaving speech about role models and everything like that. And his dad had been in the army as well. And he always said that this soldier's dad had always said that you need at least three role models in life. One is somebody junior to you or younger than you or sort of further behind in your career than you, but who you look at and is doing better than you know you were at that stage. And you look at them and you think, wow, they're doing amazing. They're going to be something. They're certainly better than I was when I was them. You need somebody who's a peer who you look at and they've either sort of overtaken you, they're doing better, or they're your co-worker that you go to for advice. The person who perhaps has been in your job longer than you, they know their job inside and out. And then you need somebody truly leagues ahead who is your long-term guiding star, who you look at and think, in 10 years time, 20 years down the line, I want to be there. And that's sort of your long-term trajectory. How do I get there? And I think that combination is really, really powerful because, to be honest, with how many times I've chopped and changed careers, I don't really have this I don't really aspire to be like any of these business mentors or anything like that. Some of these truly big names in fitness, like they're not role models to me. The most powerful role models to me have been the other two types, the people who I look at, particularly who are junior to me, and make me up my own standards. I'm like, bloody hell, they're better than I was when I was troop. So, for example, really good friend of mine who was a troop commander after me, I look at him and think he did that job better than I did. Why? Because of all these elements that I could pinpoint, and that inspired me to be better in my next jobs, for example. So I think I have learned more from seeing people do the jobs I did better than me, later on down the line, than I have in terms of looking too far ahead and saying, well, in 20 years time, I want to be Hormozi, for example. Like that to me doesn't motivate. It doesn't guide me. It doesn't offer me anything. Whereas I find those other two types of role models very acutely powerful. And I'm actually coaching a few people now who, when I log onto their Training Peaks, which is the app we use, it is green the entire way up as far as you can scroll. They don't miss a session. They cross every T, dot every I. And that inspires me. Like, you know what? Well, who am I to go miss my session now? I'm telling these people to do this thing. And it's so powerful to me. I find a lot more benefit from looking at those people, as I said, that those other two types of role model personally. So probably not necessarily what you're expecting. There's no sort of like big names I could point to and say, yeah, I really respect this person. I really, really look up to that person, because that's just not really what I'm looking for. It's the little things. Like I said, the athletes that show up and the Training Peaks is green no matter what. The people who inspire me because they did something that I've got context behind and knowledge behind. They did it better than me. How can I learn from them? That kind of thing. So that's what I really, really look up to. And I just loved the sort of the power that the fact that I first heard that story from somebody far junior to me. It really summed everything up so nicely, that somebody gave and it was a really good speech. It was just such a powerful little moment that I've never forgotten, that this idea of those three role models, and I absolutely loved it. So that to me is a very long way of saying what I look up to, I guess.
If anything, I think that's better than any other answer I could have ever expected, because not only have you not given some, obscure reference, which would have been, is what I was interested in, but actually you've given a universal blueprint there for anyone to draw role models from. And I think that's thank you to that junior soldier's dad, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I really appreciate you sharing that, because that's honestly, and I don't really say this lightly, because how much I research and consume in terms of leadership and philosophy, etc. But that's probably one of, if not the most widely applicable frameworks for who you should, have as a role model, or who you should take inspiration from. I think that's one of my favorite moments of this whole conversation, actually.
I don't know if that's reference well known. Perhaps that's come from someone well known, but that was the first time I'd ever heard of it. I've never come across it since.
Yeah.
So perhaps not. But yeah, I thought that was such a powerful moment, and it stayed with me ever since.
Yeah, well, clearly. I mean, it literally is. It makes perfect sense, because you're exactly right. I mean, they say that the best mentor isn't 10 steps ahead; they're 2, 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And I think having that, it just engages so many muscles in terms of self-development, because obviously you have the aspirational, you have the peer who actually inspires some competition, but also, mutual respect, keeps you humble in your current state. And you have someone who's behind you, which activates that whole, they say that entrepreneurship is a thinly veiled self-development tool. And I think that extends into leadership. Leadership makes you into the obligation, or the responsibility, that comes with leadership, forces you to become a better person. You have to lead by example if you want to succeed. And I think that activates that muscle.
Okay, so alignment to me is like, I feel like we have like an internal compass. Well, I feel like I have an internal compass, and and it's like telling me like north, east, west, whatever. And like it's so strange. It's like I always know if what I'm doing is right or wrong. Like, I strongly believe that people have this gut feeling, or again, I like to call it like my alignment. Even, when like, say, like you're working in a job that you actually despise, your alignment is like going like this. It's like, hey, stop, red light, I don't like this. Whereas if you're working in a job that you maybe hate, but then like you have like side hustles, or like you have all these other things going on, and you need that job to be able to create this next like chapter, then your alignment is, it's moving you to the direction you're supposed to be going to. And like alignment for me is like, I've always, if I can never do something unintentionally, like ever. I can never, like, I'd rather do nothing at all than proceed forward without being intentional, because like I believe in the art of intention so much. And I don't really only recently, like the last like maybe year and a half, I've really gotten into like, spirituality, alignment, and maybe a little bit of religion as well, and like really believing in the whole picture of like where my life is supposed to be. And I think I don't really know how deep to get into this, but like, I really do believe in like that there's a plan for your life, and there's a purpose to everything that you're doing, and you have to have the inner self-awareness. And I think it always comes down to self-trust as well. I feel like if you don't have trust in yourself, you're never going to make scary decisions. And then like, how do you build trust and confidence is you have like a stack of evidence and unshakable, self-belief that you can get up out of bed in the morning, that you can go to the gym and do that you can, say no to, when your family has like a chipper and you want a chipper, you need to eat the turkey burgers. Like I had like this stack of like self-belief that I can be disciplined. I think that's always helped me. It's always helped me in my decision-making processes, because I have confidence in myself and I have faith in myself. So I think if someone's struggling, you said there, like if someone has never felt alignment before, I would say if you've never felt alignment before, it's probably because you're ignoring your alignment, and you're probably doing things that you maybe know you shouldn't be doing, or maybe not that you shouldn't be doing, that don't serve you. Like you could be maybe heading out on the weekend all the time, but not to like see friends, but you're going out to distract yourself from something, or, you know, you're sitting in and you're ordering like, you know, food a couple times a week maybe to fill the void of something or distract yourself emotionally from something again. Whereas I would say to someone who doesn't feel alignment, like, honestly, like, just take a look at your life, and when you find yourself distracting yourself, that's the perfect time to find alignment, because you need to ask yourself, okay, what am I running away from? What feelings do I feel right now which are so uneasy? Is it financial? Is it like the way I look? Is it my life situation? Like, and that's how you'll be able to more so find your path and your alignment. But it probably is going to be the work that people don't want to do, I would imagine. And also a big thing about like being aligned as well as making uncomfortable decisions all the time. And I think, you know, like, it's a difficult thing to commit to being aligned and like commit to, again, don't want to go too much into religion because I don't know the standpoint, but like, got like, yeah, like I feel like I'm in a state of surrendering right now. Do you know, I'm just surrendering to whatever plan is out there for me. And I think as well at the end of my life, I'll know that I just trusted this, and like whatever it's supposed to be was, you know.
I asked everyone the question on the start of the call yesterday, and I was like, I got them all to close their eyes. I was like, I'm just going to do a quick exercise. I just want to shift all your guys' focus. I want to increase the energy in this call. So I got them to close their eyes, and I went, can you think of a time recently that's made you really proud of yourself? And they'll think of a time. And I'll go, if you're being stubborn right now and you're like, oh, nothing's made me proud of myself, I want you to think of a time that's made you proud. And I force them out their stubbornness out. They're like, oh, nothing's going well, whatever mindset. They're not really like that anyway. They're pretty good. But anyone who was like that, I forced out. Okay, now think of another time you felt really proud. Right, now think of another time you felt really proud. And they're stacking all this evidence. I'm proud of this, I'm proud of this, proud of this. Okay, what was it about those things that made you proud? And then that makes them go inwardly, and they're like, oh, I felt proud because I was the one who did that, or that was really hard and I overcame that. So then you're strengthening their parts of their identity that drives them. Okay, now think of something that makes you feel really grateful. And then they'll go, oh, I feel really grateful for this. Okay, now think of another time. And if you can't think of something, think of something. Think of something else that will make you feel grateful, and I stack that. Why did that make you feel grateful? What was it about that made you feel grateful? Oh, I felt so loved by this person around me, and that made me feel really grateful. And actually that made me realize this and this, and okay, right, think of something that would make you excited. And they were like, no, think of something. What's making you excited at the moment? And I say, if you can't think of something, think of what could make you excited. If you really had to find something, you will find it. And I basically hypnotize their mind into finding something. And they're like, start finding something, And I'm like, right, how are you feeling now? Feel fired up. Yeah, because we've shifted your focus to these desired states that you are actually just chasing all along. You're chasing the feeling of being proud. Everyone wants to feel happier and feel more grateful. Everyone wants to feel excited. So if you look for reasons to feel those emotions now, you can find them. So every time you feel frustrated, you feel overwhelmed, you feel anxious, you feel pissed off, you feel you have an ability in that moment just to change your focus, because there are so many things that you can focus on in one scenario. And again, it comes back to the meaning that you give it. Oh, a client left me, I feel frustrated. Yeah, because you're giving it a meaning about you. What else could you focus on in this moment? How are you going to go and get another one? Or how are you really excited to keep moving forward? A lot of people stay stuck in the problems. And it's like just shifting your focus in that moment creates that state in you internally. And when you are creating and taking action, operating from that state of excitement, gratitude, pride, whatever, you show up so differently. And we all know that on the days when you feel insane, you feel on top, you don't even think about the problems. You just go. You just like, oh my God, let's fucking go. And everything's clear. You have clarity of thought. So I just said to them, at any point you feel X, Y, Z, you've got to train your mind to shift your focus to whatever state you want to feel. You can feel it in a matter of minutes. And do you know what else I did? I added in there. I was like, now bring someone else who's proud of you. And that gets people like that. Because really, a lot of entrepreneurs are doing it to prove themselves, because they had that lack of recognition or lack of love in childhood or whatever. And, you're not amount to anything, or, you need to be the best, or, they got recognized for their achievements. You're really good at this, keep going. And then they learn that in order to gain love, I have to achieve. So let's add some recognition in there. Who is it that you really want to make proud? Now imagine, close your eyes, imagine a time that you feel really proud, bring them into the image. Watch them clapping you, watch them giving you a hug. And oh my God, it turns that feeling up like crazy. Right? So it's really good.
And that's such a whirlwind of things to feel so quickly. I can imagine, because even the way you were explaining it there, you aren't given an opportunity to kind of
no
start batting these things away as we do mentally. And what
Yeah.
was interesting there is it seems like the greater the level of detail, the more effective and the more
Yeah.
impactful this is going to be. But also, what you were doing there is, the way I think of this is, you were kind of like digging around in the bottom of the barrel to find actually what is it that you really, really feel and think. And there's a couple of things that you said that actually felt like you were just ripping the false bottom out of this barrel and like actually then going, that's what I was looking for.
Yes, yeah, like digging deeper, because you're if you're in a bad mood and you're on that call and your mind's like, oh, for fuck's sake, I haven't closed this today and this has gone wrong, and people come to the call, and they weren't yesterday, but like there will be some people on the call that are just stubborn and they're like, oh well, nothing's going well, and and people are pissed off and frustrated and whatever, and I was like, I don't force you, but I direct your mind, indirectly force you to find those things, because they are there. They're always there. If I say to you, find a red car outside, you'll find all the red cars. And I say, can you look for the white car? And you'll be like, I didn't see a white car. Yeah, because you weren't looking for it, right? And your mind can only processes like 1 million something, whatever, bits of information per second. And it's like, it filters through these lenses of what your beliefs, your past experiences. And if your past experiences was, I'm always this, I'm always that, then every bit of information that comes in, you're going to filter through that. So you never allow yourself to look outside of that. And this is what I say, you only know what you know. And it's like, you only know what you know, and you only know your potential at your current identity. If we can expand your identity and create these new beliefs within you, new levels of capability, new levels of handling more, new levels of calm, confidence, conviction, whatever, your identity is so expanded. And from that identity, you'll start being like, oh my God, I could do that. And then I could do that. And you move towards the vision. Whereas at the moment, if you are in a limited identity of like fear or procrastinate, whatever, you kind of tiptoe around it, like half in and then half out, and we're back and forward. Whereas if we can just remove those old limiting beliefs and get you stepping into the identity that it's a true you spend all your life building these limiting beliefs up to come into NLP to remove them all, and then we reveal the real you, who was always capable, but maybe you got told, oh, don't try that, it might be a risk, or you were always smart enough but you got told by a teacher this, that and the other. You were always able to handle it, but you just didn't ask for help when you were overwhelmed when you were younger, because you didn't get taught that. You taught that you had to do it all on your own, or whatever. Or you were always attractive but you got told you were ugly at school, and now you change yourself so much you don't even recognize yourself. So it's about, NLP is about bringing out the real you, because we're all capable, we're all attractive, we're all this, we're all that. And actually, when you change your beliefs, you change how you see yourself, and then how you then act. And it's wild. The transformations are crazy.
I genuinely feel so privileged to have had these conversations, and they were honestly incredible. I loved them so much, and they brought so much value than I could have ever imagined. So I really hope you enjoyed those bits as well. And obviously there's so much more to come in 2026, sorry. I've got such a incredible roster of people to speak to. I'm going to likely speak to a lot of those again. And I know that this is going to be a huge one for you. So without further ado, here's 3 quotes, and I'll likely explain a little bit about each, but here's 3 quotes which really, really deeply impacted me this year. So the first one is, adversity introduces a man to himself, by Albert Einstein. I found this quote this year, and that had such a deep, long-lasting impact on me. As I'm pretty sure I would have seen it on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. As I scrolled away from it, it just really lingered with me. And any time I or a friend or anyone that I encounter fell into times which have really, really taxed them, it's been front of mind. Anyone having a difficult time of life, this has been what I've reminded them. And myself, I've had probably one of the most, the most physically challenging year of my life in terms of managing chronic pain, sleeplessness, and it's really, really, really been tough. Well, it was really tough. It's no longer that year. But my theme of the year was kind of to do hard things because they're hard, and understanding that by seeking out that adversity, I was really discovering who I am. It was incredible. It really gave me strength. Now, the second quote was actually one that I went very much into the first day of the year having written on my wall, which was, does this move me closer or further towards my end goals? I'm slightly paraphrasing, but that was from Alex Hormozi. And that became the compass for, is this action directly benefiting me? Is that directly leading to an outcome, which is going to help me, you know, create freedom for my family and lead to the life that I want to lead? That was incredibly important for me. And that was so helpful. That was more just helpful than anything. It was a tiny little litmus test that I could constantly do and remind myself of. And I heard this one kind of 2/3 of the way through the year, which was every post or every video is a lottery ticket, by Michael Smoak, who's Higher Up Wellness, and he famously started the Higher Up Wellness public speaking challenge, I believe, and I inadvertently actually started doing that last year. You would have seen I've been posting, and it's a staple of mine now because I love doing them. It's like mini podcasts, but I started doing these and it just benefited me so much. And I love the way that you phrased every post as a lottery ticket, because it's true. Realistically, these days, all it takes is for one post to kind of hit the right note with the right people, and all of a sudden it's huge. And I think it speaks to a wider frame that small actions are opportunities. Like, big opportunities come from small actions, seemingly inconsequential actions. And I think that is a really, really nice reminder and a lovely way to wrap that up in a bow. So moving on, my 3 favorite books of the year. The first one came straight to mind, and it was super easy. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, an incredible book. And one of the things that stood out to me is that it was written in 1935 or published in 1935. So it is truly timeless wisdom, and it is still equally as applicable today and equally as helpful. And I think the reason why I thank that book's influence on me this year so much is it allowed me to have better quality interactions and relationships with everyone around me. And that is only ever going to build. Like, we are built as a collection or as a collective of the people that you surround yourself with. And the more you put out into the world, the more you get back. So that book helps you understand how to do that and how to actually interact and communicate with people effectively, which is so important. The Legacy Navigator by Lauren Welch, I think Lawrence Welch, these are all phenomenal books. I think we can just have that caveat there. But why I loved this so much is it took me out of right now and it cast me into the future, because the book is about, he used to help really high net worth individuals plan out their wills and, by extension, their legacy, and it introduced me to the concept that we leave a legacy every day. And I speak about this quite frequently now. And it really does just continue to be front of mind for me. And then these are all things that are sticking front of mind and have done throughout the whole year. But it's a wonderful book that is very, very readable, very tactical, and it's not even that long. And it's full of these little quotes. Like, the whole book for me is highlighted, thumb marked. Same thing with How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, this next book, it's interestingly one I've gifted to probably about 6 people. And it's someone I would desperately love to have on the podcast. It's What's Your Dream by Simon Squibb. And for me, I've been in this space a while now in terms of entrepreneurship, running a company, but I think it's really deeply applicable. Obviously, I started something that I've been dreaming about, this podcast, and my coaching and consultancy business. Realistically, I started this year properly. And I just love Simon's mission that everyone can have impact, everyone can own a business. And it's something that really resonates with me. And I really value the importance of people's dreams, and I will never, ever, ever dismiss. I always want to hear people's dreams, and if I can do anything towards it, I will. So this book is why I've why I've been able to help, some people this year. And he, as a creator, keeps it front of mind for me. So I'm very much looking forward to speaking to him whenever that may be, sorry. And an honourable mention is actually not, it's a work of fiction. It's called Will of the Many by James Islington. And it is a kind of dystopian, futuristic fantasy sci-fi novel, but it's phenomenal. I'm not going to go into detail about the plot, but it's like a kind of different magic system. It's got Roman. If you like the Red Rising series, you'll like Will of the Many. And it's, sequel, Power of the Few, which I've literally just finished. And apparently there's going to be 2 more books, but don't come out for a couple of years. So I was kicking myself this morning. But anyway, that is an incredible book. It was an honourable mention. I just thought I'd keep this to like really tactical things that are actually going to help you move your life further forwards. And on that kind of same vein, 3 business lessons that I've learned. Number 1 is the faster you move, the quicker you learn and the better you get. Something that has always held me back is I take too long to do things. And that has just become so frustrating that it's the thing that I've, gone out of my way, the part of myself that I've gone out of my way to kill this year, because it really doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve anyone around me. And it wastes the really precious time that we have on this earth, which is entirely finite. Terrifying in the fact that we don't know how much of it we have. So I'm really trying to place a lot of value and weight on time and make sure that I'm doing something worthwhile with it. So moving faster, you fail faster. So you're going to learn faster. It's only going to benefit you. And I just want to draw a distinction, because actually I've realized that one of my later points in my personal lessons is similar. It's about speed, but rushing is half-heartedly doing things, whereas working at speed is producing something you are still proud of, because you know when you're half-hearted on something versus when you're actually putting your full attention into something. The difference being you've still produced a product when you're working with speed, but it's just not like 100% fine-tuned in the way that you feel like you'd be 100% happy with. And another thing is, often we give ourselves far too lenient timelines. Give yourself an unrealistic timeline and see what happens, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You can always extend that, and then you have a better gauge for what is possible. Give yourself too much time and you'll fill it, and you've wasted time. So that's my number 1 lesson. Faster you move, the quicker you learn, and the better you get. Now, number 2 is follow your gut. You know your business better than anyone. And if your gut says it's not right, move on. It's a really, really tricky thing to develop, especially when you lack the experience early on. It's happened to Ailish and myself many, many times. It's happened to every entrepreneur that I know, in that in the early days, you don't have enough faith in yourself. You don't have a big enough stack of evidence to know that what you think is, or what you feel is right, is actually going to be the right thing fiscally, usually. But I promise you, you know your business better than anyone. And there's a big difference between taking a leap of faith when you haven't necessarily got the information and going ahead with something that doesn't feel right. It is a very different feeling, but I want you to really pay attention to directionally what feels right for you and your business, because it's an extension of you, and ultimately it's going to be you who steers that ship, regardless of whether it's in calm or stormy waters. So that's a huge, important lesson that is really, really come to a head this year, especially with some of the harder lessons that we learned in the business. And the last point is, change takes courage. Courage is a trained skill. It's developed by continually doing things that scare you, that are fear-inducing. And I mean that by putting yourself out there. Anytime you open yourself up to the fear of judgment, you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable position. However, that's where you grow. And similar to the point above, if you're going to make a big change and it feels scary, but it feels right. If it feels right and there's a lot riding on these things. It's your business reputation. It's often a financial responsibility or financial burden, but change takes courage, and you want to be courageous because that's why the SAS's motto is who dares wins, because those who are willing to go outside their comfort are always going to reap greater rewards, and it feels better to be acting with courage than not. So those are the business lessons. And the 3 personal lessons I have were actually really quite difficult to differentiate from the business ones, but I've managed it. And the first one is negativity begets negativity begets negativity, etc. The energy we put out into the world is reflected back onto us. A huge part of my change in 2025 has been and was really working my arse off to be a more enjoyable person to spend time with, to be the best person possible in this world, and spreading positivity, being helpful and kind. And it sounds really eye-rolling or basic, but it's so hard, and we can get really absorbed. I filmed a 6-minute video a few months ago just about how there was a huge weight that got lifted off my chest and shoulders when I decided to really focus and deliver all of my attention on being, a really positive person and not just focusing on the negativity of the world. And I think there's a huge amount of stock to be placed in that, because not just anecdotally how I feel, but the knock-on impact I've seen around me, my sphere of influence has become incredibly energized with how much positivity I put out there, and I feel better. Everyone around me feels better, and it allows me to be magnetic to the future that I dream of. So focusing on being more positive tactically, that means curating your social media like I did, curating the topics, and it takes work. You need to consciously make an effort to talk about and consume the things that you really want to, as opposed to the things that we're led to, due to shock value or whatever it may be. And I'll leave it at that. So the second one is quite a long one, and I'm going to read it verbatim. So it's not quirky, interesting, or cute to be slow at things. Good things don't necessarily take time. They take the time you allocate to them. I'm not talking about rushing, but producing quality with urgency. So you can see that last year, a lot of my reflections have been on time and how I use that time. And I think that comes from the frustration of how I feel like I've not utilized the time that I've had as much as I should have. And also, I think when you become a parent, your time sensitivity becomes very heightened anyway. But what I was talking about here is in the same way that it's not like some cool, I do this despite being unorganized, for example. It's not any of those things that I mentioned to be slow at it's solely frustrating and time wasting. And I'm not talking about making a masterpiece or anything like that. I'm talking about being able to, have a somewhat reasonable turnaround or a fast turnaround on any practical task or skill acquisition, or even a thing that your friends or family would ask of you, being able to actually have a reasonable reaction time to that. I'm not saying you have to text people back immediately, but I'm really making an effort not to leave people for days at a time, regardless of how busy I am, because all of this is just better planning and better time allocation and being more present and conscious with the time that I'm using. So it used to be that I was just, I'm slow at, I don't know, reading or something. I'm not slow at reading, but I'm slow at reading, or I take a while to do X, Y, Z. I really dislike that about myself now, because It is solely frustrating. So that leads me on to my final point, and it's a smaller one. That I am infinitely more capable than I think I am. And it just goes to show every single time. And by the way, this is broadly applicable because I can guarantee you are more capable than you think you are. There's a very, very minute number of people who think they're more capable than they actually are. And oftentimes, even when they encounter the thing, the problem, the circumstance, they learn very quickly that that's not the case. But for me, 2026 is about making huge bets on me. And I know now that I've cultivated this collection of mindsets that piece together what I believe is the version of myself that I needed to be coming into 2026 to be able to absolutely crush this year. And I'm really, really excited about actually reflecting, maybe rewatching this video at the end of 2026 to understand that I am very good at failing effectively. I'm very, very good at failing, learning, not making that mistake again, and implementing small changes over time. And I've given myself the opportunity to prove that time and time again this year. And kind of by getting addicted to starting and just getting on with things, I've actually seen that I'm able to, or I've been able to disband, I want to word this correctly. I've been able to disband this big built up fear of actually getting it perfect by nature of the fact that I'm just doing so many things. I have to just keep moving on and keep working with what I have. And I think a huge competitive advantage is learning how to live with imperfection. So do things to the best of your ability and accept that they're imperfect. I think there's something in that. Now, we've come onto the section now, which has probably been itching at the back of your mind, which is my top 5 favorite podcast episodes and some honourable mentions, because I couldn't keep it to just 5. I genuinely shortlisted about 20, and it was really, really tough to pick between them. And then afterwards, I'll go through 3 YouTube videos. So my number 1 podcast, or should we go the other way around? Yeah, we'll go the other way around. So one of my favorite episodes for 2025 was the First Things First. It's hard to say. Episode 106 with Daniel Priestley. The title is a lot about AI, but to be honest, the conversation and the candor between Mike and Daniel, it was just really, really enjoyable to listen. I love both of them anyway, but that episode I feel like wasn't doom and gloom, and it was really hopeful, as Daniel normally is. And I just really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's a great listen. I think it's quite evergreen in a sense, at least when we're in this kind of AI era. Really, really, really enjoyed it. Another of my favorites was, this is a bit out of left field because it's not performance related necessarily, but Kill Tony episode 733 with Rob Schneider and Donnell Rawlings was so funny. Bear in mind, I was at home on the sofa watching it on YouTube, and I was genuinely like howling on the sofa. I was genuinely alone, which is really, really hard to do. It's normally when you're in a comedy club, it's hard not to laugh. It's just a good environment to laugh. When you're in a crowd, it's hard not to laugh. When you're with other people who are all paying attention, if one person gets a giggle, everyone catches it. When you're alone on your own sofa in the evening, it's hard to laugh out loud. And that episode, it was just so funny. They played off each other. It just seemed to get better and better and better. Really, really enjoyed it. Episode 1022 of Modern Wisdom with Sheehan Quirk, who is the cultural tutor. This came out of literally nowhere. I'd never heard of him before. I obviously am a weekly listener of Modern Wisdom, but I'd never seen him. I've never heard of him. I only, if I'm completely honest, watched the episode or listened to the episode because it just came up on What's Next. because I was in the car, and that podcast made me think more than pretty much any other piece of media in Q3. I think it was Q3. It really got me thinking, and I literally had to get Ailish to type some stuff down. I'm pretty sure I even pulled the car over to write some notes as the podcast was going on. And it was just interesting. It was inspiring, and it was everything I love about podcasting, because it was a relatively unknown person to me who inspired, who tickled my interest, and was genuinely a life enriching experience, genuinely. So please go and watch that. Modern Wisdom, episode 1022, She Hanquirk. Now, my second, I've kind of come up the rankings. I didn't want to number them until now. My second favorite podcast of 2025 was actually a bit of a less expected one. And it was the Joe Rogan Experience, episode 2403, which is mental to just, considering I'm in single digits still, but with Andrew Gallimore. So 2403 with Andrew Gallimore, sorry, who is a professor, who is a serious, credible researcher who's done lots of research into DMT. I'm not going to try and remember the name, but DMT is I don't know how you'd call it. It's a chemical that's naturally occurring in the brain, and it's used as like a psychedelic kind of thing, but it's fascinating. And there was a lot of neuroscience, there was a lot of psychology, there was a lot of personal experience being relayed as well. That episode was so unbelievably interesting. Genuinely, I shared it around to loads of people. It fascinated me, and it gripped my attention. I had to watch it all in one. I literally moved my plans around for the day so I could listen to the whole thing all in one. And I literally had a smile on my face the whole time. Now, my favorite episode of 2025 was Modern Wisdom, surprise, surprise, episode 922. I think this one will go down in the history books as one of the best episodes of a podcast ever. And it was with Naval Ravikant, who is a formidable and kind of legendary podcast guest because of how few he's done, and the richness, the pure depth of information that he gives during these podcasts. He's kind of legendary. And I think for me, as a big fan of Modern Wisdom, it was really special to see this episode come together, because he had been talking about it for years and years and years. So I was over the moon for him. But the episode itself, I rewatched it 3 times, and it's like a 3-hour something episode. I think maybe just a touch under 3 hours, but it is so dense. Dense is the word. Really, really, really value dense. So please go watch that. If any of them, episode 922 with Naval is and will be life-changing for a lot of people, and evidently myself. So some honourable mentions, mostly are 2 more Modern Wisdoms. I couldn't keep it to just 5. So honourable mention, episode 952 with Alex Hormozi, out of this world. This is an honourable mention, so I won't go into detail. Episode 1015 with Alain de Botton. It's the second one they did. I preferred the second one. Personally, Chris was more comfortable, Alain was more comfortable, and I just think they got through a lot more. And episode 92 of First Things First with Chris Williamson. Again, these are honourable mentions because I couldn't just have like Chris all the way down the board. I promise I do listen to a lot of other podcasts. It's just these ones were really my favourites of 2025. Of the maybe 1,000 that I listened to, at least in part. So it's a lot of them. Maybe a bit less than 1,000. Definitely over 500. So in terms of YouTube videos, so these are my top 3 YouTube videos for 2025. And I think a couple of them will surprise you. Now, the first one had on my list is How to Level Up So Fast It Feels Like Cheating with Katie Clark. And this one actually came as a recommendation from Ailish. I'm trying to remember where it came from. Came as a recommendation from Ailish after she saw someone else's Instagram saying about how a video changed her life. And I think it's aimed predominantly at females, but this video is unbelievable. And it really, I believe these things, but it really brought to the front of my attention and awareness about becoming your higher self. And you know, are you acting in a way that is aligned vibrationally or on the energy level that you want to be operating at? These kind of things. But she's super tactical with it. I took loads of notes from it. I took loads of inspiration. So absolute shout out to her. I'd say this is probably a bit of an obscure one. But definitely go watch that, especially early on in the year when you're vision planning and things like that. So the next one, and I watched this right at the beginning of 2025, is If I Wanted to Become a Millionaire in 2025, I Would Do This, by Alex Hormozi. That's the name of the video. And I think I love Alex Hormozi so much, and he just lays it all bare. He lays everything out, and the depth of his knowledge and the validity of his knowledge is incredible. So there's really not much more to say about that, because that video it is literally it's a full blueprint, and it's kind of a bit of homework. But if you sit down with a notepad and you really pay attention, you go through the whole thing, you're going to be so well off. You're going to be so well set up. And I'm sure that he's done one for 2026. And finally, Mr. Beast told me the secret behind his empire. And that is the title of a video from Behind the Diary. So I think it's technically called Diary CEO Behind the Diary. It's Stephen Bartlett's kind of vlogging channel. And I adore that channel because it takes me back to the roots of Diary CEO. I don't honestly listen to Diary CEO that much anymore because it's more of a commercial product, but this he's created and curated just for founders and just for anyone realistically that is wanting to be at the pinnacle of performance. So Behind the Diary is where some of my most, powerful eureka moments or spurts of inspiration have come from. You'll see me comment on loads of the videos because there's only one a month and they are always so good. Like, he's obviously very good at what he does, but it's so inspiring. Inspiring is the thing that really comes through with Behind the Diary. So this video specifically was incredible because Mr. B, it was a lot of inspiration and kind of tactical stuff from Mr. Beast as well. So please go watch it. That's evergreen as well. Now, this was so hard to narrow down, by the way, these two categories especially. But honourable mentions are any of the videos in 2025 from Behind the Diary. All incredible. Honourable mention to Matt Armstrong, Mark 1 and Mark 2 channel. I watch that almost religiously, typically with my food, but I love the way he operates online, how he produces content, and the Outdoor Boys YouTube. I watch these videos all the time. I don't really watch TV though all that much, but I do watch select YouTube channels, while I'm winding down, when I'm having food, etc. So those are my recommendations. Now, that's the end of my wrapped or my recommendations, my top lists for 2025. And I just want to thank you. If you've been listening at all in 2025 and now into 2026, you're helping me live out my dream. And I can't thank you enough. I really do truly hope this brings you a lot of value and some entertainment. I know this is a bit of a different episode. And if there's someone that you want to see on the podcast or listen to on the podcast, drop in the comments below or, message me directly. If you yourself feel like you can bring value on this platform, please message me, or even comment if you can't message me. I really, really want to continue to make this in the way that I dreamt of, but I'm always open to improving this as I go along based on you, the audience. So I can't thank you enough. I hope you're having a wonderful start to 2026. There's incredible things coming. I really, really am unbelievably excited about what this year brings. And I can't wait to see you in future episodes on Instagram. I've really made an effort to go more on LinkedIn, X, Threads, YouTube, TikTok. So there's all kinds of places. And I make slightly different content depending on whichever platform it is. But I really hope this helps you. And I'll see you soon.